Get out the insurance cards, get out the co-pays. The office is open, my friends, as this video is brought to you by drroto.com.
All of a sudden, my mic wants to keep rising up into the screen, Nicholas Minnix. I'm not sure. I'm going to blame you for this one. As you can see, my good friend Nicholas Minnix, I think I got it situated. My good friend Nicholas Minnix, haven't had a chance to get him on Braddock's breakdowns. We've done a lot of talking over the last 6 months when everything was behind the scenes. We were putting it together. He's giving me expert advice, helping me with different little areas here and there on top of everything he's doing, not only behind the scenes, but in front as well. Even today, he's still meticulously going over his IDP ratings, and you need to get to drroto.com to check out all of his updated IDP and everything else. So first off, before we get into this episode of Braddock's Breakdowns, let me give a tip of the hat and a thank you for Nicholas Minnix joining me for this episode.
Thank you, Jason. Hey, I'm excited to be on with you. We've been talking about doing this for a while.
Right.
I'm excited to chat. I'm excited to break down some stuff with you, and I appreciate you. I feel like you're a little too kind on that, but I'm looking forward to getting into some interesting NFL situations that have developed in the last couple of days.
No, absolutely. And let's jump right into it. See how professional Nick is. Sets me to walk right into it, and that's what I'm going to do. The latest NFL buzz, and this is going to be quarterback heavy today. New Orleans Saints go with the streamlined Jameis Winston over Taysom Hill. I don't think anyone's shocked by this except Sean Payton. Nick, I got to tell you, man, like, it's not only the play Winston has put out there in the preseason, but his body, it looks more streamlined. Is it just me? You don't see that baby fat around the love handles or in the face. You don't see the same immaturity we've seen throughout his career. Are you buying on Jameis Winston as the starter now?
Well, it depends on what you mean by buy. Okay. I mean, I'm buying. This is the guy I thought was going to win the job all along because I thought there's a lot of things in place from the end of last season to this offseason. Obviously, they gave Taysom Hill more money. I don't think that's always the big pick, the determinant there. So I think Winston fits more of what Sean Payton would like to do in an ideal offense. I think he's been intrigued by the possibility of unleashing some kind of offense led by a mobile quarterback. But to me, Taysom Hill is, so now he's looking to be a full-time quarterback for the first time at the age of 31. That's a hard sell for me that's going to last, that he's a consistently good downfield thrower and things like that. I think Winston unlocks a lot of the passing game things that Peyton loves. And at the same time, allows him to do the Hill packages with all the things that, he loves to stay out of the goal line, a tight end, et cetera. So I like Winston, but here's the thing. He could get yanked in week 2. He could get yanked in week 12.
I think that's a fair point.
Ultimately, I think this is the thing, like a lot of fantasy managers and folks like to think of things in a very black and white terms. And I always look at these players as there's a big grid of quadrants that these guys are going to fall into. And you got to accept that they're going to fall in. Any of these outcomes are possible.
Before we move on to the next quarterback, Nick, let me ask you this. I think you hit the nail on the head right there. Everything you're touching on sounds perfect. One concern with me here, and I think it controls the ceiling, like you asked about, like buy in to what level, with Michael Thomas and that huge cloud over his head of what's going to happen with Michael Thomas. I think that limits the ceiling of Jameis Winston, because yes, Marquez Callaway has looked awesome in a small sample size. Traquan Smith can step up, and they've got different guys and different bodies there. But just like the Titans situation, when you had A.J. Brown, Anthony Ferguson, and Josh Reynolds, then you go and get Julio Jones, you're like, oh, now I like this a lot more. If Michael Thomas comes back and Marquez Callaway slides to the 2 and Traquan Smith to the 3, on down the line, I'm starting to like this a lot more.
Yeah, and that's again, so all these scenarios we have playing out. Do you like Jameis Winston early on when the targets are a lot more questionable, when Thomas is not available? Mm-hmm. So it's going to be a lot easier for Winston to fail early on, I think. And there's a lot of there's a lot of uncertainty surrounding Winston, and because I like him, the market always overreacts a little more than I do. So
you nailed it.
I think that's ultimately the way I played it. Like I'm probably not going to get Winston now, whereas opposed to Like I got him a month ago. I got him in other leagues. It's and not in many.
Around like what, the 30th quarterback?
Yeah, exactly.
40th, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Now you're going to have to go up probably around 20 to get him, if that's fair.
Yeah, and that's still fair, but I may like somebody else toward the end there too.
Right. You're probably more comfortable around quarterback 25 if you're looking for the value instead of quarterback 20. And like you said,
I still think the upside is Zach Wilson.
Absolutely. And we'll get into him and some of the prop bets later in the show. But let's move on to Denver. Another quarterback battle that I don't think any of us were surprised. I saw you talking on the members only Discord. And you can all of you watching right now, go to drroto.com, use my code FANTASY for a special discount. You can get in that Discord conversation, NFL, PGA, Major League Baseball, whatever you want to get on. We have it there, and the experts are discussing. And Nick was in there talking about the Teddy Bridgewater situation and why he felt Bridgewater was going to win the job throughout because of a front office move that they made with the guy coming over from the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, George, is it Payton?
Yeah. I think it's Patton, P-A-T-O-N. Yeah, okay, I believe so. Yeah.
George Patton, I mean, brought him in. He was there when Minnesota drafted Bridgewater.
Mm-hmm.
He's part of, I mean, he comes in and he's the one who brings in Bridgewater from Carolina. So, I mean, I think the writing was on the wall. Locke was going to have to blow them away to win that job. So that isn't surprising. I think it's more just like the upside of Locke is greater. It's a little more tantalizing, but at the same time, that defense, I think that defense is going to rebound in a pretty big way this season in a division. I mean, they may not be the best for fantasy because they face the Chiefs twice and the Chargers twice and the rest of the schedule. But I think the conservative coach and those things, they worked in Bridgewater's favor, and he could be pretty solid. And the receivers there are a lot more intriguing. I think we're going to talk about, who does he help most?
Which guy do you like the most? Like as far as the value getting bumped, because we got the king of consistency at Dr. Roto and Bob Long. I mean, the guys who literally written the books about it, multiple. And as much as he leans on consistency, you'll hear me talk a lot about efficiency. And so with Drew Lock to Teddy Bridgewater, last year, I want to say Drew Lock completed like 57% of his passes. Yeah. Bridgewater, the last 2 years, in two different situations, first in New Orleans, then in Carolina, he completed about 69% of his passes. You're talking about an extra 12% of completion to these receivers. So I like Judy, but is it Fant? Is it Sutton? Who gets the most boost here?
Well, Sutton still concerns me a little. In terms of just where he's going to be coming off the injury. So the torn ACL, I think I like Judy to benefit most because I think he's most like the receivers Bridgewater worked with in Carolina in terms of he's got the ability to be an intermediate threat, a possession guy, and as well as doing the deep stuff. I think at the same time, like I'm slightly concerned about Noah Fant only because Bridgewater hasn't worked with this level of tight end yet.
And he's still not 100% for regular season week one. So you have that concern.
So, but I mean, Bridgewater is a guy, like, I feel like he's also been quick to adapt in whatever offense.
Yes.
Like he has done whatever the coordinator has asked and the coach have asked him to do, especially with Peyton. I think he really proved a lot with Sean Payton. He's got a coordinator, Pat Shermer, who does like to utilize a tight end. So it's not going to look. I think what we see in the first 4 weeks is not going to be even what we see like as a pattern in the next 4 weeks and the 4 weeks after that. So, maybe there's a buy low opportunity on Noah Fant early on. Maybe even Sutton if he looks pretty solid in the first few weeks, and if he's not connecting with Judy. It looks like Bridgewater has been consistently looking for Judy in the preseason. He knows that's the big play guy.
Great.
There's so much talent there, receiver. Yes. KJ Hamler could have a bit of a breakout in terms of the deep threat. Obviously, Tim Patrick has proved himself as the fourth receiver there. At worst, right. He could be the third guy, really. I think so. Bridgewater is like you can justify taking him as your QB2 and really like a bit of upside there. It's just obviously the ceiling I don't think is as great, and they're not going to ask him to do anything too crazy.
Right. I think you hit on it there. And it's not lost on me that the first two quarterbacks we talk about winning these quarterback competitions come from that Drew Brees quarterback tree. First, Bridgewater learning under him before going to Carolina and finding success with Joe Brady. And now Jameis Winston learning on him the next couple. It's like a quarterback camp for veteran quarterbacks trying to rewrite their career. You go learn behind Drew Brees for a couple years. Now, another guy that's come in, he's learning under a college quarterback college coach that I'm not a big fan of. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I don't think you're a big fan of this hire. And I think he was given a gift with the number 1 pick in the draft. He select all world everything, Trevor Lawrence, who they think's the next second coming. I'm going to say pump the brakes here, even though Trevor Lawrence won the starting job. What do you think about this situation? Not with just Trevor Lawrence, but Urban Meyer as the head coach in Jacksonville.
Well, he won the starting job. I mean, all of that stuff. I think I don't want to say Meyer is in over his head so much as I don't think it's going to be his cup of tea. You know, the NFL is.
And what's he do when it's not his cup of tea? He's like, got a knee, got an ankle problem. I'm going to have to retire.
Yeah, my health is a concern.
Yeah,
the family, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I think we both like Wilson. I think there's a lot you could say about the potential for the lack of long-term stability with Jacksonville more than the Jets.
Right.
And I think so. Lawrence has not faced the same level of adversity, I think, as Zach Wilson has. And I mean, I know we're not doing a comparison, so I'll focus on Lawrence. We were both concerned about Lawrence coming in well before that preseason game 2 showing.
Right.
Because he has more to learn. Like, he didn't come from a quite pro style offense the way Wilson did. I have questions about how the Darrell Bevell offense is going to mesh with what Urban Meyer's philosophy is on offense, things like that. I think it's a strange match.
You've got the offensive coordinator. You bring in the offensive coordinators, and quarterback coach, Darrell Bevell, Brian Schottenheimer, everybody that Seattle didn't want anymore. They wanted to upgrade and improve, and that's who you give to your number 1 quarterback to. So there's some weapons there. The ETN injury is not beneficial to Trevor Lawrence at all. But I think the Urban Meyer, Darren Bevell, Brian Schottenheimer, not a lot of people talking about it. I think you hit it right on the head there as well. That I'm concerned about the situation there. And in a lot of fantasy drafts, when people are looking to go with those rookie quarterbacks, most people are taking Trevor Lawrence first, and he might be the 3rd rookie quarterback I would take, if I'm being honest with you. Now let's move on a little bit. Keep on talking about these rookie quarterbacks in New England. It's Mac Jones and Cam Newton. Been a bit of a roller coaster this week for Cam Newton with not only rap music, I guess apparently that's making them struggle up in Boston, also the vaccine status and the miscommunication there, but maybe the most damning for Cam Newton is the practice Mac Jones had like on Tuesday or Wednesday where Patriot beat writers just raved about. I want to say either 15 or 18 straight passes they completed. Before I turn it over to you, let me tell you my thoughts on this. I wasn't a huge Mac Jones guy. I had an early 2nd round grade on him. I didn't think he was in the conversation with those 4 first rounders, but the Patriots, to get him there at 15 without having to trade picks and everything else, they may have found their guy for the future because he's consistent, he's accurate, he's smart. And if you're looking to best build your future from this season, I think you go ahead and start with Mac Jones. And the main reason is not anything I have against Cam Newton personally. It has to do with physically. Cam Newton, if you watch him throw the ball, his throwing motion is still not right from 2-3 years ago. That doesn't come with the over release. He's coming from here and pushing it. And there's a guy who's from Humble, Texas, that I used to do radio with. He played for Texas A&M. He was actually the quarterback for Ryan Tannehill that made Tannehill move the wide receiver. And then he got injured his shoulder. His name's Gerard Johnson from Texas A&M. He's now one of the assistant coaches for the Indianapolis Colts. But Gerard told me that when he injured his shoulder, all of a sudden the zip and the accuracy wasn't there anymore, and he was forcing everything from the shoulder instead of using the whole right technique. He had to go back through different trainers and rework his entire throwing motion. Cam Newton has never done that, and you still see the throwing motion is not right. You're not going to have the consistency. You're going to just see him fire underneath passes and run it and get the mobility with their stable of backs that even after trading Sony Michel is still loaded. But I think if you're looking for consistency and trying to actually be a legitimate team and building for the future as well, it's Mac Jones.
Yeah, if you're looking for consistency and if you're looking for conspiracy.
Okay. What's the conspiracy?
I had to wonder. I'm like, this is probably not what happened, but did New England set up Cam to say, okay, is this the way you want to go? We'll see if you, we'll see how we'll see if you step outside the line of the testing protocols and how that's going to affect. They've seen enough. I was similar to you, and I wasn't a Mac Jones guy in terms of, the ceiling of the prospect and things like that. And then at the same time, like I thought Cam was the guy to like in, I don't want to say like in fantasy, but he was going to win the job. Like,
I was right there with you. Let me be honest. I was right there with you before Cam started.
The upside was not great. It's not like we were going to be like, but you need to get this guy as your QB2 even. Like that's not where we were going to be. But Mac Jones has consistently maybe outdone some people's expectations, such as ours. Right. He's also, and when this happened, I thought New England is not unhappy that he's got this opportunity to continue to build on what he's shown in the preseason with the ones in practice this week and really convince them. Like, it's like they said, convince me that we should name you the starter. And so far, I think that he's done that. So if you're a team that is invested in Cam Newton for 1 year and Mac Jones is the future, and you have to install into entirely different offenses, depending on which quarterback you pick. I mean, even if you have a base in place for one, you're not going to develop the other offense. Why not just go with Mac Jones?
Yep.
Like, it's not that, and besides the fact that if you do start with Cam and you have on the playbook that you built, at any given time, because of the playing style you're going to depend on him for, that he's more prone to get injured again and not unlock the rest of the talent you brought in, you paid all this money to bring in here. Like,
nailed it.
Why bother going with Cam? Why not even if it doesn't work out with Mac Jones this year, despite the fact that you have a ton of aspirations for this? I like the Patriots to easily challenge for a playoff spot this year.
Oh, wow. Nice.
But, yeah. I mean, like, I think, if I don't know if we're allowed to say the Vegas, the number for their win total is not like, it's not a lot. Like they were 7-10 with one of the worst rosters in the league last year. Mm-hmm. Their defense is going to be better. I mean, Mac Jones is consistent. He's efficient. And as long as they don't have any reservations about that, I mean, and that's going to benefit all of us. I mean, Jacoby Myers could be a PPR sensation.
Kendrick Bourne, Jacoby Myers, Nelson Aguilar, the way the receivers are set up, even the tight ends, Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith, you said it perfectly. To maximize the talent they brought in, it's Mac Jones. It's that simple. I think you nailed everything perfectly. Let's go to the last quarterback situation, another rookie quarterback. This was different than all the rest. It was close to midnight last night, and I guess probably not as late on the West Coast. I'm down here in Houston, Texas. Coming out of San Francisco, Matt Barrows, a beat reporter for the 49ers for years now, put out an article, and it made me wonder, is he just thinking about this, or is this where the 49ers are going? And in that article, he talked about the 49ers going with the two quarterback systems of Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance, lack of a better term, a college system, a college two quarterback system. And then I wake up today, Albert Breer's talking about it, the 49ers are talking about it, and everyone's saying, yeah, this is it. It's a two quarterback system. I'm kind of surprised. What's your initial thought on the 49ers trying to run a two quarterback system this year?
It's really hard to imagine that working in the NFL. But I mean, we've seen a lot of things that have come from the college game in the last decade that have translated much better. I'm not going to say that I give it my wholehearted endorsement, but I'm not going to be shocked if it's effective. The real question, I mean, so obviously
building chemistry with the offensive line and the receivers and the tight ends.
Yeah, that's the lack of continuity at the position is a big deal in terms of the way. I mean, like if you're constantly asking and stressing the offensive line, the skill position players to do different things depending on which guy is back there. Like it's easy to do with Taysom Hill because it's a handful of plays or a dozen plays at the most. If you're talking about true swapping, I find it hard to believe that there's going to be a true swapping back and forth. I think they're really just setting it up to say, to me, it sounds more like they're giving Trey Lance the opportunity to impress them in some package of plays and just say, okay, it's time to go with him next week. I think that's what they want to happen and develop him.
And to your point, I'll say this. I thought Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, and Justin Fields were right there together. If you took Justin Fields first, and Lawrence second, Wilson third, I wouldn't argue with you. Now I think I think Zach Wilson will be the best of the bunch, but I think this trio of Fields, Lawrence, and Wilson are all very close in talent-wise. Then I had Trey Lance more towards the 20, 25 area of the first round, later first round pick, because there was so much development. That being said, I've seen signs of flashes of development already in limited preseason action. So I think you're probably right on this, Nick, where you're saying, all right, the 49ers, Shanahan, they're going to give Garoppolo the job right out week one, but they're going to work in Trey Lance. And as soon as he's ready, it's Trey Lance's job because they know what the future is. And I think the trade deadline is an important date because they want to recoup some of those picks they gave up to move up and get Trey Lance. And it's easier to do that if Garoppolo stays healthy, which is a big if for Jimmy Garoppolo. So they probably want to keep him healthy, let him shine and look good, and trade him before the deadline to get back some of those picks and then move forward in the future the rest of this year with Trey Lance.
Yeah, and I think they would love to restructure that contract. I think make him take a pay cut or something to make him actually appealing as a trade possibility. I mean, of course, also the appeal of him, you lose some leverage if you make him your number 2 quarterback, and maybe that's what they're waiting for is the trade deadline until then. But whatever it is,
Carson Wentz goes down again.
Yeah,
they go Jimmy Garoppolo. Yeah,
whatever it is, the hope. Maybe there's a hope that a team. It's hard for me to envision a team really a team trading for a quarterback near the trade deadline because it's such a difficult position to transition to.
That's a fair point, unless you have ties like a Nick Foles to.
The ties have to be there, so it limits the possible trade partners. But whatever it is, I think the Niners are setting up some sort of potential transition. And I mean, that's not in and of itself shocking by any means. It's the question of how soon they're willing to do it. And I thought they were going to wait till Jimmy Garoppolo got injured, but Jimmy Garoppolo has not looked great in the preseason. And for a guy who needs to play his tuchus off to really prove that he can hold off Trey Lance for snaps, I think Lance, you're talking about the development. We've seen some encouraging things. The way he chucks it still concerns me. There's not a great deal of touch, but there's still
no pocket presence at all.
Yeah, and that's a big concern. That's probably the biggest one right there.
Yes.
So
the biggest area of weakness.
Once the real games start, that may, the plan may change. I don't think nobody's married to anything. So I understand why people are like, I've seen people draft Trey Lance just as high as Justin Fields, and I don't get that.
I don't get it. Yeah, I've seen people take him as a top 10 quarterback. I don't get it. Unless if you're not in a dynasty, I don't see the value in that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it makes me concerned what does he do for the receivers? So my preference is, as a Brandon Ayuk owner and former Deebo Samuel owner, it would be to see Jimmy G do just enough. But we'll see. Long term, I still like Trey Lance to be helpful for those guys. We'll see.
That's another great point you bring up there, as far as you'd like to see, see him stay healthy and everything. That's a big question mark when you talk about Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, and George Kittle. That's the top 3 targets there. So I don't know if Trey Lance is going to be able to maximize it while he's still developing. And so trying to get the most out of Jimmy Garoppolo before the deadline, if I was a betting man, which we're about to get into some here in a second, if I was a betting man, I'd put my money on them moving Garoppolo before the deadline, unless an injury hits to either one of the quarterbacks. All right, so we caught you up on the latest buzz. Now we're going to speed things up here and go into seasonal and individual prop bets. The thought processes on this is I'm going to give some names here for some different props. And Nicholas Minnix with $100, it's just a round number, with $100 in mind, is going to tell you where he would spend his $100. And we'll chime in with our reasoning on that. But we're going to move through these pretty quick. So let's start off with the seasonal prop bets first. Most passing yards this year. There are 6 of them that kind of intrigue me here, Nick. Matt Stafford plus 1,000, Russell Wilson plus 2,500, Derek Carr plus 3,300, and Kirk Cousins at plus 3,300, with the real long odds being the rookies Zach Wilson at plus 8,000, Justin Fields at plus 10,000. You don't want to be done with your 100, but do you see a long odd here that you're taking a shot with?
Well, because I like Wilson, I think for the long odds guys, I would go with that because the Jets defense is going to be awful. The Jets defense is going to be awful. And it's not for any lack of effort from Robert Saleh and his staff. It's because the injuries, they continue to pile up. The talent there was still questionable. Yep. Yeah, Lawson, even the depth of Vinny Curry. I mean, they're just linebacker. Jared Davis also. I mean, he's going to miss 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks. It's not a pretty situation. I think the defense there, and the fact that I love the way he spins it,
and those receivers.
Yeah, the receiver. I mean,
six deep at wide receiver.
Yeah. And Tyler Kroft, sleeper tight end. Like, I mean, he looks the part. And rookie QBs love the tight end.
We should see if Chris Herndon develops with Zach Wilson this year. So we'll watch both of those tight ends together.
I've given up on Chris Herndon, my friend. I've given up on him as a University of Miami fan. I think he was overrated, which is sad. I thought he was a pretty talented guy, but I don't think it's there.
Okay.
I think the work that Kroft has put in, I think he's not a true tight end one or anything, but I think he's going to be solid. So yeah, of the long shots there. Otherwise, I like Russell Wilson. He intrigues me quite a bit.
All right, I'm right there with you. The long odds, I think, you may be my brother from another mother, because I mean, I saw this exactly like you. Plus 8,000 on Zach Wilson. Yeah, I'm throwing $100 on Zach Wilson with Corey Davis and Denzel Mims and Jamison Crowder, Vincent Smith, on and on and on. I'm throwing it on there.
The running backs to throw it to.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. But if I want return on my 100, I think I got a better opportunity. Russell Wilson, you hit it. Plus 2,500. I can make $2,500 on $100 just if Russell Wilson leads the NFL in passing. Russell Wilson came into the NFL 9 years ago, 144 regular season games ago, and he started 144 regular season games straight. Hasn't missed one game. Now it's a 17-game season, and I can make $2,500 banking on Russell Wilson to stay healthy like he has the previous 9 years, and all he has to do is lead the league in passing. For $2,500, turning 100 to $2,500, I love that one. Absolutely love that one. Let's move it on. Most rushing yards. I got 3 guys here that intrigue me, and they're all in different tiers. Plus 1,400, Ezekiel Elliott. Plus 3,300, David Montgomery. And plus 6,600, Mike Davis. They need to lead the league in rushing yards.
Well, I'm definitely not doing long shot Mike Davis.
Okay.
And we've already talked about David Montgomery offline. I've never been a huge fan. I do think
give a quick update for those who weren't in the Discord today. What had us buzzing offline? And it's not a report, it's just reading the tea leaves and some concerns we have.
Just an observation that the David Montgomery over-unders,
all
the prop bets are off the board.
Yeah, I went to my bookie when we're looking at these props. Every single prop was listed. David Montgomery's name was there, but it was off the board. He got nicked up on the very first play, preseason week 1, looked over to the sideline, called for somebody to come on to the field as he limped off, didn't practice the first day back, and then they said he returned to practice with an undisclosed injury, but didn't play preseason week 2. Now he's off the board. I'm right. I'm right there with you. I can't take the plus 3,300. As much as I love David Montgomery this year, that concerns me. And it might not be anything, but it concerns me.
Yeah. And the other one you have listed there, I like Zeke to have. I mean, this is a potential renaissance year for him. He's running out of opportunities for that. He definitely. All the reports say he put in the work to kind of change. I mean, he was not good the last 2 years. The offensive line was also not healthy. Right. From what I've read, La'el Collins is still really struggling.
Oh, so he just got injured today.
Yeah. Oh, and
just today, just about an hour or two ago, I read on there he left practice injured. So I don't know how serious it is. So research that first. But I mean, you talked about the struggling, and now he's injured as well. Don't know the severity of it.
Yeah, but I mean. All other concerns about the offensive line, I think they put a lot of this in the rearview mirror. Obviously, the offense is totally different under Dak Prescott, so I like his chances. And sometimes these bets, you're making these bets also because you're saying that you're making a comment on what you think about the other guys, like that are in the field, not in the field, but the rest of the the favorite
McCaffrey,
field.
Henry, Cook, the injury concerns.
Yeah. I mean. Zeke in the end he's been reliable, and they should be better. I think that defense will be a good bit better, even if it's not good. So a lot more opportunities to run out some clock and things like that. I think I like Zeke. The combination of that and the passing game should continue to be just dangerous enough, if not plenty dangerous, if Dak proves to stay healthy all season.
Yeah, there it is. I'm right there with you. I can't get to David Montgomery. I was all over that until we noticed that while looking at these prop bets earlier today. And Mike Davis plus 6,600. Really like Mike Davis this year. I have another individual prop for him later. I might get on that one. Can't do it here. Ezekiel Elliott, out of these three, the Ezekiel Elliott turned 100 into 1,400 off of Zeke leading the league in Russia. I'm definitely there for that. He's only one of 5 running backs that have had 240 more carries the last 2 years. Moving on to the most receiving yards. I'm going to start off with the guy I love this year, and it's partly because not only his skill set, but who he's partnering with at quarterback, another prop bet. We might parlay season-long prop bets right here. Pick the Russ Wilson at plus 2,500, DK Metcalf plus 1,400 to lead the NFL in receiving yards. I'm intrigued. Allen Robinson plus 2,000, Adam Thielen and CeeDee Lamb both plus 2,500, DJ Chark plus 5,000, and these odds are intriguing. Robbie Anderson, Cooper Kupp, Jerry Jeudy plus 6,500. Don't know if I can get there on them, but where are you going with your $100?
This was, DK Metcalf is the clear. He excites me for where I'm expecting a good shot of returns. Metcalf, combination of skill set, Russell Wilson, that passing game is going to be opened up, I think, a little more than people think. I know that they want to do pound and ground and pound as well as pair it with playing defense, but combination of a lot of factors there. I'll just say is I think the passing game is still going to be a big part of what they do. So I'm going to say long shots in that. Robbie Anderson is interesting. I'm still not convinced on Sam Darnold, but they have a connection.
Yep.
Matt Rule. I am a believer in Matt Rule big time. I think this guy, by next year, that's a playoff team probably.
Yep.
Or at least, competing for a playoff spot. I mean, if they don't this year,
Watson next year too, right? As long as Deshaun's not, if everything's cleared up for Deshaun Watson, now you imagine he goes back to the Carolinas.
Yeah, that's that. I mean, I couldn't say that that's not a good landing spot for him.
Yeah.
So Robbie Anderson intrigues me. Cooper Kupp, I don't think so because I think he's more of a possession guy. I love him this year in fantasy. I think that the combination of factors is going to work against
more
him
PPR value than receiving yard value. I got you.
And Jeudy, that's a true long shot because there's so many targets to share. Teddy Bridgewater is going to spread it around. I mean, if you had to pick a guy in Denver, that's the guy.
Right. On this, I just want to add a nugget on Robbie Anderson because you talked about how he continues to build chemistry. Last year, he joins back up with his Temple head coach, Matt Rule. This year, he joins back up with his Jets quarterback, Sam Darnold. Everything's coming up roses for Robbie Anderson. Got a new contract extension. I like it. I don't know if there's enough there, even in that Joe Brady offense, to lead the league in receiving. I like the thought process there. Really love Allen Robinson with Justin Fields after being with Bortles and Trubisky for his entire career. DK is obviously the favorite here, but I think I'm going to settle on a long odds here, and this won't surprise people that have been following me for a while. A couple years ago, my number one wide receiver in the draft was DJ Chark. He got stuck with Blake Bortles and Gardner Minshew in Jacksonville. Now he's got Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence can get it to his number one wide receiver. Marvin Jones, a lot of people aren't talking about it, but he got a shoulder injury in this last preseason game, came off the field with it hanging down by his side, they messed around with it, decided to go back in, caught the next pass, came off holding the shoulder again, never came back into the game, and he's listed as having an AC joint sprain or I'm not exactly sure on the terminology of it, but he's dealing with something in the shoulder already before the season starts. You got Laviska Shenault, who's going to be a complete stud out of the slot, but that number one wide receiver, DJ Chark, he's added 7 pounds of muscle after Urban Meyer challenged him to be more physical. Next time Urban saw him after telling him that, he came back with 7 pounds of muscle. He's been hiding under the radar as he's got this ligament injury in his finger he had to have surgery on a couple weeks ago, but he's going to be 100% by week 1. Plus 5,000, he might not lead the NFL in receiving yards, but I think there's a chance. And for turning 100 into $5,000, I'm going to take that chance.
I can appreciate that. It concerns me that he hasn't gotten to work with Trevor Lawrence very much.
Fair enough.
And combination of the things we talked about, the concerns with that offense. But I can appreciate. I mean, that's the one thing you never know. I mean, just because it's an unknown doesn't mean it's a bad bet. It's just that it's, I'm not going to be as confident. But those things.
What's the saying, Nick? What's the saying? I don't know if you ever watched the cartoon Boondocks, but there was Samuel L. Jackson and Charlie Murphy played these reoccurring roles on this. Hilarious. And Samuel Jackson's riding in the car. I believe it's Samuel's character. And he turns around and he says that the absence of evidence isn't the evidence of absence. And it was one of the coldest lines I ever heard. But I think that's in line with what you're saying now.
Yeah. I wouldn't be shocked if there was some instant chemistry there. I mean, because Chark does something that nobody else on that in that core does. So, yeah, I like the possibility. I would not dismiss it.
Well, let's talk comeback player of the year. Then we're going to move through this. Got individual props coming up next. Last seasonal, though, comeback player of the year. These all three I could throw 100 down on because I like them all. Christian McCaffrey plus 1,000, Nick Bosa plus 1,400, Jameis Winston plus 1,200. Which one of these do you like? All three? I mean, if so, which one do you like the most?
Well, I think it's interesting to me that McCaffrey seems like the safest bet. I mean,
it seems like a steal, right?
It does, considering that. I mean, like the other guys are not much. The odds are like I would think 2,400 and 2,200, and then I'd be like, well, I'm not sure which one I would bet if I had to pick only one. But McCaffrey not being, I think that's easily the safest choice
by far. Let's move on. Because I'm like maybe Nick sees something.
Winston,
I like
Winston seems like a waste of money, I like the changes you talked about. I'm optimistic. I'm not certain.
You're not going to pick 100 out. I mean, you're not going to put 100 on him over McCaffrey. I mean, McCaffrey 1,000. Turn 10 to 1 odds on Christian McCaffrey to turn 100 into 1,000, that's insane value right there. That might be my favorite bet out of all of these. All right, we're going to run through these really quick. Individual prop bets. Zach Wilson, we both love him. 21.5 touchdowns over under. Where are you going?
What's the rookie record? I think I would go over just because I like him. And
there's 17 games now. You're talking about if he just throws one touchdown a game, that's 17. He just needs to pick up another touchdown in a quarter of the games.
Yeah, and I do not have many reservations about the over on that.
I don't either at all. I pound that. I go deeper than 100 on that one. I like it a lot. All right, individual props. Which one of these do you like, or do you offer both? Well, it's over under. So just tell me you're going over under on which one. Which one do you like more? Baker Mayfield 39.50.5 passing yards. Russell Wilson 42.50.5 passing yards. You only got to pick one of the two. Which one do you like more, and is it over or under?
Based on the histories, I like the Wilson over more. We've talked about the reasons, so I won't get, I think that passing offense is going to be a little more integral than people expect. I think you wrote an article, I think, on Russell Wilson being a value in terms of the top QBs. I'm on board. Mayfield, I know what the second half of the season looked like, but that was a little over 2,000 yards, and that was the great half of the season. Now we are talking. We do have an extra game, so over is the tantalizing, and I think probably the popular choice. I think I would still lean toward under, but that's not one I would bet.
Oh, so you're staying off on this one.
I would stay off Mayfield because I'm not real confident in either side.
What about Russ? Are you going over under, or are you staying
he's over for me.
All right, so that's the one right there. I'm right there with you. It's over on Russ. Now, we talked about this guy earlier, individual props, 2 running backs. Tell me which one you would get action on. Mike Davis at 800.5 yards. Jonathan Taylor at 1,199.5 yards. Big number there.
Yeah, so – I'm not super confident in Mike Davis as a runner.
Stop that.
I mean, if you gave me an over under on his passing yards and it was 800, I'd be like, yeah, give me over, nice. Which sounds like a crazy number. I'm just saying, I think that's a doable thing. But Jonathan Taylor, if I'm picking an over, it's Jonathan Taylor because he almost did that last year. Yeah. And so there's some concerns. With the offensive line, I think Quentin Nelson now in the pup, maybe not well.
COVID. I think he's coming back from the injury, but now in COVID protocol.
Yeah, there's a combination of offensive, so it may not get off to a good start.
Right.
That's the only I really like. Even if Carson Wentz is not what they hope, and he is injured again or anything like that, and it's the rookie and it's the young QBs, this is an offense that is built on the success of the offensive line. And Phillip Rivers was not a world beater last year. I mean, he looked good at times, but they did a lot to protect him and protect him from mistakes. And I think there's no reason that that the young guys can't be. I'm not going to say as good, but like
Right.
I think 17 games for Jonathan Taylor, who has been durable at Wisconsin for the most part. I mean, this is like it's still early in his career. Like I just feel confident that he's going to get 80 some yards a game.
There's just probably too many red flags around Jonathan Taylor for me, and that number's pretty massive. 1,200 yards. Yeah, I know he can do it, but you talked about how durable he was. Absolutely, you're 100%. On the flip side of that coin, though, was his workload in college. They ran him, and we know NFL stands for not for long, so injuries are probably the most concerning to me. If Jonathan Taylor, if those mileage starts to catch up with him this year, if the O-line chemistry is lacking because of the COVID going on the COVID list for offensive lines, the injury on the offensive line, all of that. And then maybe most importantly, I think Taylor's value is tied more to his quarterback than himself. If Carson Wentz goes down again, he's been injured every single year except 2019 since 2015, and each injury has been to a different part of his body. That's not reoccurring. That's somebody who's not built for this league. And so I think it's just a matter of time before another injury rears its head. And if that's the case, they're either going Jacob Eason or Sam Ehlinger, or because they're reactive and didn't take advantage of the first injury and go get Nick Foles or somebody and catch them up to speed, they'll be catching up to speed on the fly during the season, and that will cost Jonathan Taylor drastically. Mike Davis, I love him in Atlanta. There's no running back behind him that can replace him. Like Cordell Patterson, Deontay Foreman, because he played on the Titans with the new head coach Arthur Smith. This is
Audrey Allison is not. Yeah,
I mean, this is your talent there. Mike Davis only has to give me 50 rushing yards a game to hit this prop of 800. I'm taking the over on Mike Davis. Like him a lot there. Wide receiver, and then we got two different wide receiver props, receiving yards and touchdowns. Let's go wide receivers, then we're out of here. Tyler Boyd, 850.5 receiving yards this year. DJ Chark, 899.5. Robbie Anderson, 950.5. And Cooper Kupp, 1,050.5. Which one of those you put in your $100 on?
Ugh.
Over under.
I think those are good numbers for all those guys. I'm gonna. Who you give me your pick first.
I'm right there with this is tough. When we talked about Anderson's value, we talked about Chark, we talked about Cooper Kupp. I think every single one of these could be over, but I'm going the lowest number on the board. Slot machine, Tyler Boyd, 850.5. Everyone, is it Jamar Chase? Is it T. Higgins? Who's the number one? I don't give a damn. I want Tyler Boyd out of the slot, and I think he gets me 900 receiving yards at a minimum.
I think he was one of the two I had circled before we started. And I'm going to say, so my thought is whatever Joe Burrow does in this third preseason game, they're looking, they're looking for whatever as far as confidence and things like that. Like, I think things are like early on in the season, still maybe some concerns with that. And if he's looking, combination, like the offensive line should be a little better, but this team throws that, like the emphasis is going to be on getting the ball out quick. That's going to benefit a guy like Tyler Boyd.
Really great tight end talent. So all the underneath routes are going to be Tyler Boyd.
Yeah, he's essentially the tight. He's like Jamison Crowder on steroids, I guess. In a way. Like that's not not a perfect comparison, not the same offense.
Sure, I understand, but the work underneath.
Yeah, exactly. And he can do other things. It's not like he's limited to like slot work. He excels at what he does. Yep. So I think he seems like the safest bet. I mean, if you're going to get a guy who's going to catch 7 balls a game, 6-7 balls a game, like he's right there because he's going to pile up yards just by death of 1,000 cuts.
There it is. Absolutely. 100%. Last one, then we're going to get out of here. Nick, I appreciate your time today on short notice. So I'm going to key you up for this one. Last one's receiving touchdown, individual prop bets. Allen Robinson, 7.5 over under on the touchdowns. CeeDee Lamb, 6.5, as is Cooper Kupp. Coming in at 6 is DJ Chark and Robbie Anderson, 5 touchdowns over under.
So I think the clear winner for me is CD Lamb, and I'm not a huge believer in necessarily there's going to be a massive step up in year 2.
I'm intrigued.
But I do think this, like, I am still confident that this offense is going to be, Dak Prescott may not be 100%, but I think the Cowboys are going to manage him enough that he's going to be close enough. I mean, we got some encouraging reports in the last day or two. I mean, now they say they have no restrictions on him.
Yeah,
we trust him at that.
So he had some passes with some zip today, and he's looking good out there, is what the reports are.
Lamb is a dangerous receiver to me, and I don't even know what the number was last year, but when the first 5 weeks of the season, I think he'd already piled up 2 or 3 touchdowns. I think as a threat, I'm not concerned. There's a lot of mouths to feed in Dallas, but 6.5 is not a big number. So
yeah, it's not a big number, and I like that you ended on that, because Robbie Anderson, 5 touchdowns, not a big number.
It's a good number too. He's a good bet, I think.
Yeah, if he gets you a touchdown, like every 3 games, what is that going to give you? About 5 touchdowns right there every 3 games. 1 touchdown every 3 games should give you. My math might be off. I went to South Carolina for high school. Believe me. And we've been on this long, so I'm not going to do that math right here for you. Yes, I am. No, I'm not. All right. Change my mind. All right. Seriously, though, Nicholas Minnix, thank you, man, for this extended version of Braddock's breakdowns. We caught you up with the latest buzz on all the quarterbacks in the NFL. We took you through seasonal and individual prop bets. If you want more information and nuggets like this, go to drroto.com. Use my special discount fantasy right now. Also, check out our brand new Major League Baseball DFS optimizer. And if you enjoyed this information as much as I did from Nicholas Minnix, check him out as well at drroto.com. There goes the mic again. And check him out.
It's only at the beginning and the end.
The beginning and the end. Alpha and Omega Mike. And so check him out over there as well, and his IDP rankings. If you want IDP, if you're playing IDP, this guy keeps it locked in, day out, and keeps his rankings up to date. Nicholas, let them know where they can find you on social media and all the different things you're working on.
Well, check me out on Twitter at Nicholas Minnix, right there on your screen. And come check out the IDP projections. They're filled out with all the rankings, explanations, what you're looking for. I'm happy to put together a custom cheat sheet for you if you're a subscriber. So come hit us up, check out all we're doing over there.
Absolutely. We'll be at drroto.com. You should be there as well. And I'm not a hater, so I'm going to let my mic get in the shot for this last one. We'll catch you next time. drroto.com.
Thanks for stopping by the office. Get your fantasy prescription by subscribing to the channel and checking out drroto.com. And until the next visit, be